It is a pity to gather wood flowers. They lose half their witchery away from the green and the flicker. The way to enjoy wood flowers is to track them down to their remote haunts, gloat over them, and then leave them with backward glances, taking with us only the beguiling memory of their grace and fragrance. That is a quote from the book The Blue Castle by Lucy Maud Montgomery, one of my favorite books I read this year. It follows a woman named Valency Sterling. She's 29 years old, and she is dissatisfied with her life. She's never been in love. She doesn't really have any friends. Her family treats her basically like crap. One day she goes to the doctor because she's been complaining of some chest pain, and she gets diagnosed with some type of illness where she only has a few months to a year to live. And she just decides to say, you know what, screw you guys, I'm gonna live the life that I want, and I'm gonna try to find a way to be happy. And the book follows her journey into figuring out what happiness is and what she wants out of her life. I remember hearing once that there are times where things happen to you, but there's also times where things can happen through you. And I think Valency is one of those people where she decides that she doesn't want things to happen to her anymore. She wants to grab life and say, okay, this is what I want. And I really admire that about her. I kind of find her similar to Elizabeth Bennet in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice movie. She's sassy when she wants to be, once she kind of comes into her own a little bit. And I just love her. I think she's just such a great character. Something that really surprised me about this book was the nature descriptions. It's just beautiful. Throughout the book, Valency quotes an author of a book series that she likes that's all about nature and the forest and the trees. And I wasn't expecting this to make me want to visit Canada, but it does. I believe that Lucy Maud Montgomery is the reason why a lot of people visit a certain area of Canada that I think she bases all her books from and where she is from. And now I get it. Although this book is not based in that same area, I want to go. Can I get a tourist visa? The general vibe of this book, I would say, is of Valency doing a lot of things for the first time and figuring things out. She does mess up, and it's not the most perfect thing. Her family does think that she's crazy a lot of the time. They want to send her away or try to bring her back home. They think that she's just having an episode, but she's really just trying to change her life, and I just love that for her so much. I think it's also kind of funny at the same time, the way that her family just doesn't believe that this is who she is now. It's just, I don't know, she's awesome. I'm not really the type to read romance books or care much for the romance plot lines in books, but man, I was rooting for Valency the whole time to find somebody to lock down a man, This book makes me think about my own life and my own relationship with my family and, what am I gonna want to do with my life and what's gonna make me happy. I don't really know, but I think I have to figure out what my own journey is going to be similar to Valency, and I'm really glad that I got to read this book during a time where I feel a lot like her in the beginning. The beauty of the house is immeasurable, its kindness infinite. Piranesi by Susanna Clarke was probably the best book I've read this year so far. This was something that I was not expecting it to be. I thought going into this book that it would be about Mr. Tumnus from Narnia because there's a fawn on the cover of it. But I was so wrong. I was so very wrong. I don't really know how to describe this book. I don't know how to give a little plot summary, and I think it would be best if I don't. There is kind of a mystery to this book that I think needs to just be experienced as blind as possible. But I can tell you it's absolutely beautiful. This is an epistolary novel, so each chapter is told via journal entries, which I think is so smart. You get to see everything through Piranesi's eyes and how he sees things and what's going on in his brain, and slowly learn things at the same time that he does, and seeing everything unravel as it does was quite the experience for me. And if the memory forgetter thing that they have in the Men in Black, that little device, was real, I would use it on myself just so I could read this book again for the first time. It's just so good. I'm not going to say that this book was scary, but there's a sense of unease. You don't really know what's going on. The main character at some points doesn't really know what's going on. And although the house feels as if it is a home to them, it feels very foreign to the reader. there's just something about the house itself being a character that I think aided in that feeling of what is this? Another thing that I really liked about this book is the way that Piranesi really appreciates the house and all the things that it gives. The fish, the glue, the water, the seaweed, the random bones that he finds. Like, everything is so sacred to him, and he really just loves it and appreciates everything that he has. Even if he doesn't fully understand or know why it's there, he sees it as a blessing, which is just so interesting to me. He's such a interesting character, and I felt like you just have to root for him. I feel like I often read books where the main character might be a little hard to root for, but I really wanted him to succeed in finding out what was going on in this book and why he was there. One morning when Gregor Samsa woke from troubled dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a horrible vermin. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka is probably the weirdest book I've read this year. It follows a man named Gregor who wakes up one morning to find himself turned into a giant beetle. And it explores his relationship with his family now that he is a bug and he can no longer go to work and support his family financially. You know the meme, "Would you still love me if I was a worm?" This book explores that as a concept within a family, and I feel like after reading this, the answer is a resounding no. I've never read any of Kafka's works before, but I have heard that a lot of it critiques capitalism and the dehumanizing nature of work culture. It's also talking about bureaucracy and how dumb it is sometimes. So reading this book, I can kind of understand what people mean when they say something is Kafka-esque, because damn. Gregor was seen as the breadwinner for his family, but now that he is incapacitated in his bug form, he quickly becomes seen as a burden, and they don't really care about him as much anymore, which is actually kind of sad. Although Gregor is a bug, he still understands what's going on and what his family is saying about him, so he just feels really bad about himself. Every attempt he's made to try to connect with his family is just seen as ew, this gross animal is in our house, get him away from me, which is just so tragic. I felt really bad for him. I felt angry for him. I wanted him to try to find a way to escape or get out. I also kind of wondered if him being a bug was a metaphor for something. Is this supposed to be a metaphor for somebody becoming disabled, or some type of illness takes them, or something like that? And maybe it is, depending on your life experience, but I just kind of saw him as a beetle, as this thing that his family saw as so grotesque and so nasty. And I don't know, it was just, I don't want to say that this book was it wasn't fun to read and that makes it bad, but it wasn't fun in the way of you see him suffer. I did read up on this book, and apparently of Kafka's works, this is the only one with a happy ending. I don't know if I agree that it's happy. I would say that it depends on who you ask. But I would say generally this book was tragic. I think one of the things the books share in common is the theme of solitude or isolation. In The Blue Castle, Valency is alone. She doesn't have friends. She's basically emotionally neglected by her family, never been in love. In Piranesi, he has solitude and he is also alone and isolated, but in a way where he appreciates all of it and thinks it's a blessing. And in the Metamorphosis, Gregor is isolated in the way where his family's hey, you're gross. And the tragedy of what it is to be alone and kind of had this forced solitude put upon him. And maybe that's why I keep thinking about them, good ways and in bad ways. And I think all of these books have just been so interesting to read. This is my first time reading from any of these authors, let alone two classics. I'm not really a classics reader. I haven't read a classic since I was in high school, unless it was an assigned reading, and I didn't even really like those. So going into these, the classics at least, were such a pleasant surprise for me, and I feel like I've been missing out on the entire genre for many, many years, and I'm glad that I got to have this experience with reading these cool books. So I look forward to trying out some more genres and reading some more authors that I've never read before. And if you have any suggestions for that, please let me know. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. I hope that the background noise wasn't too bad. I wanted to film outside today because the weather wasn't too hot, but also the lighting is really blown out. There's been planes flying back and forth. But hopefully this video isn't trash. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, but please take care of yourself. I'll see you next time.